Welcome to the Geekcentric podcast, and welcome to our spoiler-free review for Batman Caped Crusader. This is a losing battle. 100 other monsters will show up to replace anyone you take down. Probably, but now they'll all know I'm coming for them. Hello, I'm J-Law, but you can call me Justin. And if you're joining us for the first time, well, we are Geekcentric, a podcast covering the world of movies, TV shows, toys, collectibles, gaming, and all things Geekcentric. Joining me for today's Bat-tastic spoiler-free review is a real crime lord of the TCG world, Nate, the Big Beard Shelton.
You either die a hero or you live. That's Batman we're talking about? Is this the Batman? Which Batman?
I don't
Batman?
know. I guess that is Batman. That's Nolan's Batman, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
Yeah. So you got one of the Batman quotes.
I
there.
figured out. We're talking about Batman.
Yeah. How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. I'm excited to talk about this this really lovely, delightful surprise of a show.
Yeah, for sure. And it seems like it's the year for 90s revival animation shows. Earlier this year we had X-Men 97, which blew my socks off, blew all of our socks off here at Geekcentric.
I don't have any more socks.
Yeah, I know. I just go barefoot now. I just walk around like a hobbit. I'm Peter Jackson in it everywhere.
So sorry.
No, but I was lucky enough to lead that spoiler-free review. And much like that review, I want to kind of kick things off here talking about Batman, the animated series, the original series that Bruce Timm, who's showrunner and executive producer on this show, was the executive producer on the original animated show. So for yourself, Nate, did you have any experience with that show? Have you watched it at all?
I haven't. I of course I know of the show. I grew up seeing maybe bits and pieces of it. I know the style of it. I know it's something that is completely beloved, but very similar to my experience with X-Men and that animated series. It just wasn't one that I was sort of week to week dedicated to. But of course I know the world of Batman, and we already talked about the Nolan films, and I'm a really big fan of the Max original Harley Quinn series that also does a lot of really fun, fresh stuff with Batman in its own right and in its own way. And so, yeah, I think from a standpoint of I think I'm not as much of a DC fan, but I really do think I'm a Batman fan from the sense of what I've gotten to see from Nolan's films, but also in the world of animation specifically, between this and the previous series I mentioned. So yeah, this, I will say I want to watch this animated series. There's another one with a skinnier Batman that you're always telling me to watch as well. That's like
Batman
really
Beyond.
That Batman Beyond.
Yeah, that's the future verse of Batman animated series.
Okay,
so
sick.
It's really good.
Add it to the list.
Yeah. I'm a huge fan of Batman the animated series. I've actually gone back and revisited over the last couple of years, just watching old episodes and revisiting a lot of it, and rightfully so. Like Kevin Conroy as Batman, so distinct, so iconic. In a lot of ways. And when he passed away, I said this in the tweet, and I said, he'll forever be my Batman. Like anytime I think of Batman, it's definitely Kevin Conroy. And Mark Hamill as the Joker, so iconic for that show. But the art style was incredibly unique. You look back at X-Men leading up to X-Men 97, that has its own style, but some of it didn't age well. We've talked about that. But with Batman the animated series, for the most part, I'd say all of the show has aged really, really, really well.
Awesome.
Which is why we have this show continuing that look and feel. And that's where it feels like this new Batman Caped Crusader feels like a spiritual continuation of that world and that style. So yeah, and obviously Batman Beyond, is a great series as well, and does really connect to the Batman animated series, continues that style and that aesthetic, and kind of goes further with it in a more futuristic approach and look to what Gotham looks like in the future. But yeah, I've loved the show. This is why I was so excited for this one as
Hmm.
well. Being able to talk about it, and have the conversations in and around just getting it more updated and a little bit more modern in its approach. And it
Sure.
does do that in some ways, and in
Hmm.
other ways it stays completely true to what was really special about the original Batman animated series. So yeah, with that sentiment opening up this review, let's get into giving you guys the synopsis for this show, as well as who's in it, and some pretty big names producing it, I will
Oh yeah.
say. But welcome to Gotham City, where the corrupt outnumber the good, criminals run rampant, and law-abiding citizens live in a constant state of fear. Forged in the fire of tragedy, wealthy socialite Bruce Wayne becomes something both more and less than human: the Batman. His one man crusade attracts unexpected allies within the GCPD and City Hall, but his heroic actions spawn deadly, unforeseen ramifications. The series reimagines the Batman mythology through the visionary lens of executive producer J.J. Abrams, Matt Reeves, and Bruce Timm. Based on the DC character, Batman Caped Crusader hails from Warner Brothers Animation, Abrams' Bad Robot Productions, and Reeves' Sixth and Idaho. The series stars the ensemble cast of Hamish Linklater, Jamie Chung, Diedrich Bader, Christina Ricci, Minnie Driver, McKenna Grace, Eric Morgan Stewart, Michelle C. Bonilla, Crystal Joy Brown, John DiMaggio, Paul Scheer, Reed Scott, Tom Kenny, Jason Watkins, Dan Donahue, David Krumholtz, Haley Joel Osment, and Toby Stevens. All 10 episodes of Batman Caped Crusader will premiere Thursday, August 1st. So today on Prime Video. A huge thanks to our friends at Prime Video Canada for giving us access to these screeners so we can review this show early. We're going to do our standard sort of pillar structure for this review: what worked and what didn't work in three different areas. First, we're going to talk about look and feel for the show, the performances. Then we'll close out with our thoughts on the overall story for the first 10 episodes. Then we'll wrap with final thoughts and overall score. All
Sounds
right.
good.
Cool. So let's get right into it. Let's start by talking about the look and feel of the show. And as someone who's loved the original sort of Art Deco, or is what they called it back in the day, the Dark Deco style of the original Batman animated series, it is so lovingly continued in this series. It is on full display. The characters look exactly the same in their style and this sort of retro vibe of the time period. Um, the cars all look the same. Everything about it just feels, again, so lovingly recreated from the original, but just updated with a sort of a very modern approach. And I think that's more in the technological advancements of animation in a lot of ways. But it's funny, as much as they've modernized it and they've kept the style and the visual style of it, it is very much it's pushed further back into the timeline of the Batman animated series, if you think about it. And not only that, like, the one thing that it really fully embraces, very much like the original series, is the film noir, is the detective crime story. And that really seeps into into the layers of the visuals of the style and how they are going, because in a lot of ways, I don't know if you knew this, but in the original, when they started drawing, in most cases when they're animating, they start to draw on just white paper. But for Batman animated series, they started on black.
Ooh.
So they really focused in on shadows to really drive home that film noir, like that harsh shadow sort of aesthetic of the show. So I think, again, it's a beautiful continuation from that into this new show, and it feels updated in the right ways.
Yeah, I loved the look of this show. Classic vintage 1940s, sort of complete with, like, as you mentioned, those cars, gangsters in pinstripe suits, Tommy guns, and just this, like, such a cool blend of this adult sensibility, but then the classic animated charm. as you mentioned, and things like a giant missile launcher shaped like an umbrella. These are things that are you know childish and things that you might remember from the original series or what have you. But it never takes me out. It never loses me. We get all the wonderful rogue gallery of the villain side of Gotham, of Batman, as well as Batman himself. All of the characters have their original sort of more comic accurate costumes, and it never pulled me. That also never pulled me out of the experience. Like, the story itself is more grounded, it's more complex. But like getting to see Catwoman in the classic purple outfit, or Batman in the gray but with the black undies, like I clocked his undies at one point, and I was like, I noticed it, but again, it never felt cheesy. It never felt like he wasn't a badass. And I love the character design as well, like you're talking about. And if this is something that again, I've seen images of the original
Yeah,
animated
because like
series.
Catwoman in the original was in a purple outfit. This
Right.
one is far more retro. Like again, like to the point of what you're talking about, the costuming and the design, while it feels like very similar to kind of the look and feel of the Batman animated series, it does go more into like I wouldn't even say 40s, I'd say 20s, even
Sure.
like in the sense of like
But I mean, the show takes place in the 40s. But
sure,
yes,
yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. But like I mean like even sense the sense of like the sort of like the crime styles, like maybe the 30s, even like
Mm,
just the way it looks, you can tell that it's further in the past versus where Batman the animated series takes place. And I don't think in any way that these two shows are meant to be connected in a
sure.
timeline capacity. It's really in a stylistic approach, because what they're doing with Batman in this iteration of the show is entirely different than what they did in the animated series. But there is some overlap, right?
But I love how all the characters have that boxy, almost action figure looking sort of design, the broadest shoulders, the very square jaws on every character. And it just brings you back to like a simpler time of animation, and it works really well. But at the same time, you had mentioned, like, I didn't know that, the whole aspect of how they originally animated on black. And so the attention to shadows in this show is so cool. Of course, we get some really great standout poses and moments, but if you pay attention to the shadows, specifically with Batman, and like the tall, sort of looming, growing shadow moving slowly, and you see the pointy ears and everything, and it just gives you moments in the show where you're like, that's a painting. Like that is absolutely a painting.
Absolutely.
I want that on my wall. It looks so fantastic. And I will say, I think my some of my favorite moments visually are in the opening theme song that we get week to week, the opening credits, and it just looks in black and white. It's just so
Uh,
cool looking.
I love how you say week to week, but it's like we just watched them all like
Sure,
in one
and it
sitting,
all 10
and it's all
episodes
going to
are
be
going to come out. I know, I
together.
know. But it
But
but
the intro, I totally agree.
yeah.
The intro is very stylized. It's very unique. I think it works really really well in, again, helping to establish a different time period that separates itself from Batman the animated series. Black and white, they're like almost like case file photos. That's sort of what they're meant to be. Like you're looking at like a variety of different photos from different crimes that have happened. It's intentional for that reason, and we'll talk more about that when we get to story. So yeah, it does really set the tone and the vibe for what how this show is different. I'm gonna kind of shift. So while I holistically appreciate the visual style, that works for this show, and bringing that over from the Batman animated series, I will say there are a couple of things they didn't bring over that I did kind of miss,
Oh,
which
okay.
is a stronger character theme for the musical
Batman.
score in this. Is, don't get me
Really?
wrong, I liked it, but there's a signature theme for Batman that is from that. And I'm not saying we needed that, but I would have liked to have heard that hero's score here,
Huh.
something
Okay.
that's more obvious. But I do think that this leans more into the cinematic orchestral versus Danny Elfman's booming theatricality that definitely sticks with you when you watch the original Batman animated series. So I kind of miss that.
Well, listen, I can definitely appreciate that. I remember, Paramount, the now canceled Halo series. Paramount made they made a lot of mistakes with that show. I'll be honest with you, but one of the biggest mistakes was not giving us the classic Halo theme song. So I can fully understand sort of that longing for, just with the fact that there are so many aspects from this show that remind you of the original, to have something that would have been a little bit closer to that original theme song. I totally understand. I mean, I will say the music that does play during the theme song, week to week. I'm going to keep saying week to week because I want people to watch this week to week, even though it all comes out on one day. I think it's better. I think it's better. I do. I would have loved to have savored it. Obviously, we're always so grateful for the opportunity to do this, and I love getting to watch this stuff early and what have you. But I would have loved to have savored this experience even more. But I think Frederick Weidman, or Weidman, I'm not sure how you pronounce that, but I thought the music was perfect. I love the sweeping orchestral 40s style big band, clarinet, string, saxophone, and oboes, and to me, I thought it fit like a glove, or it fit like a cowl, I guess. And I thought that the theme song was very, it gave me Ramin Djawadi vibes, which is funny because, again, I really do think that this would have made a lot more sense on an HBO Max. I'm so happy it's on Prime Video. But it, every time that theme kicked in, I really, really enjoyed it. And I will agree with you. That theme doesn't come back as much. Like, the opening theme doesn't come in to play in the actual show as much as I would have liked, but there is a very specific moment that it does hit, and I enjoyed it, and I remembered it, and I think that's something to be said in terms of how the music makes you feel throughout this show. But I also want to chime in on the audio in this show, and this was the first thing that I recognized about X-Men '97 as well. Immediately, it's like the first note that I took on this show is just how freaking good this show sounds. Of course, the line delivery, is top notch, but the sound effects, especially the cars and the guns, like the actual firing of the bullets, just sound so loud and really give you that sense of fear that you should have when you're seeing characters shooting guns. Whereas in maybe in some more classic cartoons that I watch, it's like, oh, they got a gun, okay, no big deal. And here it really did add impact for me. And so shout out to the Foley artists and the sound effect team on this show, because I think they knocked it out of the park from an audio standpoint.
Yeah, it's really crisp and it's really clear, and it really gives more dimension to the overall experience of the show. Okay, let's move into performances. This whole cast is outstanding. I am gonna I'm gonna do it right now because I want to talk about it. I want to talk about Hamish Linklater as Batman, Bruce Wayne.
Sure.
Um,
Were you
he
constantly
is,
comparing him?
like, honestly, I was blown away at how good he was. I was
Yeah.
like, how is this guy gonna match Kevin Conroy? Right?
Right.
Like, how is he gonna bring that? And he brought something that both sounds similar but is incredibly unique to him. I was just blown away at how well he did it. He brings such a duality that you would expect from Bruce Wayne.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's just kind of two different personas to him. The socialite, and then there's the Batman. And I really liked what he did with the character. I think he was outstanding, and he was able to still convey emotions while being in those characters. There's just one part where he gets super annoyed with Alfred, and you hear the inflection in his voice as he's getting annoyed with him, right? And I was just like,
Yeah.
it's great because it really does feel like he's playing two different characters. Which, for Kevin Conroy, when he was Bruce Wayne versus Batman, there was that distinctive voice change between the two that felt
Mm.
so holistically like two different characters. So, yeah, kudos to Hamish, because he did a great job.
Yeah, Hamish Linklater was never someone on my short list that I thought would play Batman.
Batman, right? In
But
an animated show. Yeah.
he's perfect in this show. I think he as Batman, he gives ruthless, blunt. He keeps himself at a distance, even from Alfred, and you can hear it in his voice. He's solely focused on being Batman, and I think Hamish delivers on all fronts as Batman. And then as Bruce Wayne, like you were saying, like Hamish manages to convey through his voice that he can put on the charm, and he can, at first, honestly, when you first hear his Bruce Wayne, he comes off very debonair. But then as the season progresses, you see more and more with Bruce interacting with other characters. And like you can really hear the hollowness of that initial sort of charm that he has. And that's not a small task as a voice actor to be able to sort of convey that, to show that in a vocal performance, to get people to hear that in a vocal performance, that element of, oh, this person's not being truthful right now with how they're acting and how they're being. And of course the animators do a great job with Bruce Wayne's face in those moments, but just to be able to hear it as well. Yeah, Linklater was excellent. I'm really happy with what he brought to the character.
Yeah, I thought he was so great. So I loved Jamie Chung as Harley
Yes.
Quinn. I think again, when we get to story, I'll kind of bring it up. But the theme of duality, the theme of two sides
Mm-hmm.
to a coin, you see it in different characters. We just talked about it with Hamish and his Batman Bruce Wayne portrayal. The same can be said about Jamie Chung and Harley Quinn.
Mm-hmm.
I thought there was two sides to that character that you really get to explore and learn more about. And I think again, she wouldn't have been the first person that I would have thought of to play a Harley Quinn. And I think rather than the sort of loud theatrical Harley Quinn, this is like a more methodical
Mm-hmm.
and thought provocative version of Harley Quinn that I really enjoy, and I don't think has been done yet. And I say yet because who knows what Lady Gaga is going to do when we get to the Joker sequel.
But you mentioned Lady Gaga in the Joker sequel, and I love that we're getting a Harleen Quinzel in this show that is separated. It's there is no
Joker.
Joker for her.
Mhm.
And so I thought that was great. We get to really focus in on her and her day to day, and we get to see, like you said, the lighter side and the darker side. And I think Jamie Chung gives a really great performance that highlights both of those sides. And to your point, it's not that loud boisterous thing, right? And it's
Yeah,
refreshing, and it's
exactly.
classic and
Yeah.
refreshing at the same time, which I'm probably going to repeat a few times as we talk about this show. But it's just sort of, it's cool to just sort of get a villain that in both her goals and her aesthetics, they feel very classic. And yeah, I really enjoyed her. I also, can I jump in? I'll mention Crystal Joy Brown, who I think is a standout as Barbara Gordon. She's kind of this. She's. I was happy to see she's a bigger presence in this show than maybe she has been in previous iterations of the story. But she's kind of even a bigger presence, I'd say, than even Commissioner Gordon, her father. But she's a great combination of curious and capable, and she really holds her own in this show as she attempts to uncover the truth and at times protect her dad. And I thought it was really cool. It was a really cool spin on the character, with kind of just getting her more involved, like you
But
would normally see Jim Gordon.
for sure, and yeah, she's assuming the Jim Gordon part, but
Yeah,
also we know Barbara Gordon in the comics and in the history will eventually become Batgirl. And obviously
sure.
she doesn't need to become Batgirl in this series, but you can see how that's already being seeded though in this
She's
character.
punching. Yeah,
Just she's raised by a cop dad,
kicking
and
ass. Yeah.
that relationship is very clear in the show. You
Mhm.
see that. But she's not, like you said, she's not afraid to chase down the truth. She's not afraid to knock on the doors that she shouldn't be knocking on. And a lot of people say, like, damn, you got balls, like, to be doing this. You don't know, what kind of stuff you're in right now.
Yeah.
And I think Crystal Joy Brown, plays that character with such strength and
Hmm.
honesty, which can be said about a lot of the people that are on this voice cast. Christina Ricci as Catwoman,
Yeah.
like
What a
I
perfect get.
for sure. And I think it's almost like it's one of those things where it's like I would have loved to have seen a live action version of that,
Right.
but also at the same time, I'm really happy we have her in this version
Hmm.
to tell this story of Selena Kyle. And she's great. She's absolutely great. I think she's having a lot of fun with it. You know what I
Yes.
mean? Like you can when we talk about like the sense of like theatrics and drama and a little bit of theater and sass, like a lot of that lives in Christina Ricci's performance of Selena Kyle and Catwoman. I think it's so beautiful.
And we do get that sense of fun in a lot of the more villain rogues gallery side of the show.
Yeah.
But at the same time, that fun never takes away from the depth, and I really did find that with Christina Ricci as Catwoman. Diedrich Bader is again someone who
Dietrich.
I never thought I would ever see as a Harvey Dent, but he's killing it, dude. And the thing is he's trying to do his best for the city of Gotham. Like, this is a Harvey Dent that we're really getting to see the lighter side of, and even though he is kind of a jerk, he's there's certainly still some darker elements to him. Seeing him and his constant attempt to charm the entire city, I think it sets up a really cool mirror to Bruce Wayne, and I think that's I like how that sort of plays out through the overarching story.
Yeah, and that I feel like has been explored even in the vein of the Dark Knight.
The Nolan,
uh
yeah,
yeah, and just in
yeah,
that movie in itself, and how Batman saw himself in relation to Harvey and what Harvey stood for versus what he stood for. And I think, yeah, again, to bring that theme and explore that here with two new characters of Bruce and Harvey. Yeah, Diedrich is doing his best, like, sly guy, con man style
yeah.
Harvey Dent.
One eyebrow is always raised and one is always a little
Always.
lower, always.
Yeah,
But they're
always.
different ones, different times.
But
Yeah,
what's so funny is that you notice that in the animation, but like
yeah,
you can imagine that that's how he's probably delivering that line
yes,
too, with
yeah,
a bit of an eyebrow raise. But what's great about Diedrich's performance too is that, like, as I was mentioning before, there's just another side to it.
hmm,
And we really start to see that kind of, there's always been two sides inside of him. I think that it's interesting how they've implored his character throughout this series, because it's not necessarily as conventional as we have seen it in the past. They're having fun with the characters we know and love, and creating a new mythos and like lore to this version of Batman that feels refreshingly different with the rogue gallery, right? Because there's some characters that show up in here that were more current in terms of like iterations in the comics, but they've been made far more older, if you will,
sure.
and adapted in this show in a lot of ways to make sense. And it works. It really does work.
And like really, they feel very classical. I don't know all of the specific. There are some that I definitely know, and some that I've seen in other that I actually have personally seen in other animated Batman series. But but there are, like, I think, we let's just say we get into the supernatural side of things, and
Yeah,
even
and
some of
that's
the
really
more
cool. Yeah.
goofy side of things,
Yeah.
where again, it wasn't, these weren't characters that I was expecting, given how the storyline feels more grounded.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let's move right into storyline. We're kind of already getting there, but yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think that the if we're thinking about the episode to episode experience, um we were talking about this offline, but like X-Men 97 very much has like an overarching story that carries throughout the rest of the season and comes to a bit of a conclusion at the end. I feel like what this show does differently is that this show feels like it has an overarching theme rather than an overarching story that it's trying to conclude.
Mm,
But each episode is kind of like how it was back in the day, where it was like the crime of the week or the thing to
yeah,
solve for the episode. There is still like tangible connections, like Barbara Gordon, how we see her character evolve, Harvey Dent, his character evolve, even all the various detectives, Harley Quinn. That remains the constant throughout, is seeing these characters and revisiting them each episode and seeing their involvement in whatever is going on for the episode. It kind of still kept that traditional episode of the week, rather than going for like overarching story that a season is meant to resolve. It's not like they're trying to reinvent the wheel. And in a lot of ways, I'm very invested in these characters because we constantly see them in every episode, and we're invested in them.
yeah. There definitely is an overarching story, and I think it's very classic noir detective, in terms of its pacing. of that overarching story, right? And so it is happening slowly but surely, as you do get those week to week, like villain of the week, sort of
Mhm.
motif.
But would you
Um,
say it's a story or is it a theme? Like,
I,
is it like more
you
of a
can
thematic element,
I mean,
or if it?
pieces are moving. Pieces are moving. Things are happening week to week that
Yeah,
do affect where we end up. And I do think that if
yeah,
that
I see
pace
what
is
you're
not
saying. Yeah,
in is that if that pace is not your style, it might not fully work for you as well. And maybe you will sort of want to binge this to just sort of get to where we're going in the show. But if you do enjoy that, then I really think it's going to work for you. And I'm kind of a little bit torn in that area in terms of that pacing for what ends up being the overall story. But I do think that it is very worth it. It's very worth it. I think the final act in this overall arc is great, and it had me on the edge of my seat.
the
Uh,
last 3 episodes, you felt like
Correct.
that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I also love that not all moments in this show just focus on Batman. Like this feels more like it is more of a Gotham
Gotham show.
PD
Yeah.
/ Batman story. And so we get episodes that feel way more focused on Barbara, Jim. There's a wonderful detective character, Detective Montoya, voiced by Michelle C. Bonilla, who adds another really cool element to the Gotham PD side of things. But yeah, I think I like that element, is that Batman isn't necessarily the main character; he's a main
Main
character,
character. Yeah.
and I really really enjoyed that.
Yeah, that's I couldn't agree more with that. I like how they focus more on the Gotham side of it, rather than just Batman or Bruce Wayne. Like, in all honesty, there's more Batman than there is Bruce in these 10 episodes in a lot of ways. There is Bruce, but I just mean like Batman is obviously far more important.
For
And
sure.
I think the way Batman is working with Gotham is kind of the big takeaway from this show, to kind of look and appreciate how the character works with Gotham in a lot of ways. So I thought that's really really great. With all that said, it would be great now if we just kind of wrap things up with our final thoughts, and then our overall score, which will be out of 1 to 5 bats. I'm gonna keep
Bats.
it
I
simple.
thought you were going
Yeah.
to say batarangs for some reason, but I like it. Okay, bats.
Yeah, keep
Everyone
it
loves
simple.
bats.
Yeah.
Um, it's a miracle that we've gotten this show and X-Men 97 within, like, roughly the same time frame, and the fact
Within the
that they
same year, you
within the
can
same
say.
year, and they managed to both deliver that perfect blend of, for you, nostalgia, that classic style, as well as holistically fresh takes that feel like they're stretching these characters and this world. And it's cool, like, these are characters that have been so well established in pop culture, so to get to see them in a new light, but again still feel all those feels for what you felt, and for just classic cartoons, classic animated Saturday morning cartoons. It really works. I will say, I don't think this hit quite the same highs as X-Men 97 for myself, but I still found myself engrossed in every single story. I think the way they managed to take as I mentioned, the cheesy or sometimes goofy costume design and or weapon design or prop design, they still find a way to deliver a story that feels mature and grounded. And I think fans of the superhero genre have really missed the classic spandex suits. I mean, we just Deadpool and Wolverine, and getting to see the yellow suit, or the yellow, I almost spoiled something there. Sorry. But to get to see the yellow suit was so cool. And so to get to see that, even in an animated sense, is awesome. And I think it really, really, really delivers on those iconic looks. The cast is incredible. The music is beautiful and sweeping. Big names: Bruce Timm, J.J. Abrams, Matt Reeves, and a story that focuses on more than just Batman. I think this show is going to be an excellent stepping stone into the world of Gotham, or at least it did feel a little bit like that for me. And then I also think this show is going to be a really wonderful step up for younger watchers who are ready to take on more complex storylines with Batman, that are maybe ready to sort of go into, because I don't think this is necessarily a kid show by any means, but I think it would work really well for that 12 to 14, 15 year olds that you have in your life that love Batman and love DC. So I'm going to give Batman Caped Crusader a very solid 4.5 out of 5 bats.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I connected with the nostalgia of this show. I think it lovingly continues what was so special and what was so great about the original Batman animated series, from a style point, from a world building point, but it mixes it all up. So while this isn't a continuation or in any way a part of that series, from a story perspective, it feels spiritually connected based on the visual style that is absolutely fantastic. It is so great to see. Like you said, within the year we've been transported back to the 90s to relive these cartoons and see new stories, fresh stories, fresh characters, new approaches to telling these stories. Um and really focusing on just that storytelling and that piece. I knew going into this that it wasn't going to be the highs of X-Men 97, because X-Men 97 was doing something different. But what I came out of with this show, with Batman Caped Crusader, is really feeling like this is a great new way to tell a story about Batman, Gotham, the rogue gallery of characters that are very unique. The approach to even how that is viewed in this series is awesome. I think they've made a really great selection of plucking some really well known while also mixing in some incredibly obscure, and even just like more recent uh, villains that are made more retro for this show. They hit it out of the park with it, in my mind, in a lot of ways. So yeah, like I'm gonna be giving this show a 5 out of 5 bats,
Woo!
because like for me, like I guess it's you can say it's all nostalgia, and that's probably entirely true, but I don't think that this show is necessarily a lesser version than X-Men 97. But what it did is it kept true to itself, like X-Men 97 really tried to do, and it delivered something that was holistically its same. The film noir, the art deco, dark deco style of the world, it's so beautiful. And like you said, when you have names like Matt Reeves, uh JJ Abrams, and of course Bruce Timm behind it, it only helps to lift this show and elevate it from all perspectives: story, character, visual style. And that's why it really does deserve it. Enjoy the 10 episodes when you get to watch it, on Prime, August 1st, today. So you'll be able to watch them all. You can take your time with it, but I
Right?
honestly
Take your
think it's,
time.
yeah, like
Take your
I
time.
honestly,
Savor it. There's only 10 and they're only
the
25 minutes each. So
yeah, exactly. And
take your
the other
time.
thing too is like, yeah, take your time with it. I don't know if this would have been as satisfying as a week to week. I think a lot of people would be humming and hawing about like the pacing of it
Sure.
versus versus other people who are like, well, this is very much a Batman animated series style show. Like
Mm-hmm.
it is holistically that. The episode of the week is very important. So enjoy the show however you'd like to. Binge it, watch it daily, watch it, every week, pop on a couple episodes, whatever you want
Get
to
a bowl
do.
of cereal, you
Yeah,
know?
and yeah, that's exactly it. Doing some tang, you know what I mean? Have some tang. Don't mix the tang into the cereal. I've
No.
done that before. Really bad.
Yeah.
Really, really
Alfred
bad.
Alfred
Ruined.
made that mistake once and now look where he's
Now he's
fired.
cleaning the cave like every
He's
Saturday
cleaning
now.
the cave. Yikes.
Well, that is it for our spoiler-free review for Batman Caped Crusader. A huge thanks again to Prime Video Canada for setting us up with the screeners in advance so we could bring this to you somewhat early, or spoiler-free thoughts. We were a little late because I was on a trip, I was away, and I really wanted to be a part of this one. So I appreciate anyone who's listening to this before actually going in and watching the show. But you know what? We would love to know your thoughts when you are watching this show. And if you want to share anything, and you can do so by reaching out to us at wearegeekcentric@gmail.com. That's wearegeekcentric@gmail.com. You can hit us up on Twitter or X at GeekcentricYT, or you can reach out to us on Instagram at wearegeekcentric. You can also hit us up in our Discord. Link in the show notes, so you can come and join us. We'll open up a spoiler channel if you want to chat all things Caped Crusader. But also just keep in mind, we have a ton of great episodes out now for you to enjoy, including our spoiler-free and spoiler-filled review for Marvel Studios' Deadpool and Wolverine, as well as a whole bunch of awesome red carpet stuff that we got to cover from the Toronto premiere, which is on our socials, on Instagram and TikTok at We Are Geekcentric. We have interviews as well for that movie. Nate did an interview with Rob Delaney, Peter from Deadpool and Wolverine, and executive producer Wendy Jacobson. Both of those are available on youtube.com/geekcentric or on podcast feeds. We also have another interview that we posted earlier this week with David X. Cohen, executive producer, co-creator, and showrunner of Futurama. Futurama is in its 12th season on Disney Plus right now. So you can go watch that. The first episode's out. We might have another interview though. We might have another interview with that. So stay tuned. Stay tuned.
You don't have to bend my ear, Justin.
Okay. You know what I'm Way saying? To give it away. Jeez.
Well, you don't know who it is.
No, of course. Yeah. No one understands that reference or joke. Just you. But also we have a ton of stuff that's coming up. You'll definitely want to be following us on our socials. We got news coming relatively soon, more interviews. Hot Geek Summer is it's sweltering right now. We're
I had to change my shirt. That's how hot it was.
Yeah, exactly.
From one geeky shirt to another.
It's actually a true story. I did actually have to change his shirt mid episode fashion wardrobe.
Listen, I'm always going to show you two sides of me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, there you go. Keeping in with the theme of this show. All right, that's it. We're rambling. Have a good one. Nate, thanks for joining me for the spoiler-free review. And as you say,
love ya. Peace.